Good morning and welcome to another Next Gen morning commute. It is, Wednesday the 29th of April 2020, and today you are joined by myself, Rohan Subajoti, co-founder at Next Gen, and also alongside me today I have Andy Coles.
Morning.
Good morning, Andy.
Morning, man.
How are you? You all right?
Yeah, I'm very good, thanks. Yeah, I've 2 wins. I know the day, which is more than I've done for most of the week,
Good.
and I've also not dressed the same as Adam this morning. So 2 little wins this morning for me.
Excellent, mate. Good man, good man. So today on the show we have our regular phone-in Q&A with guests, which is focusing actually on how to launch your own podcast. So we have 3 podcastees, I'm sure that's a word, who are Sharon Sutton, Chris Broom and James Mousley. So get those questions coming in via the chat. I'm joined today as well by Mr. Andy Coles, like I said, and Andy. What else do we have on the show today?
We also have Chris Budd's financial wellbeing tip of the day, which he teased us with yesterday. So if anyone can remember that, he will complete the bit that he was doing yesterday. We have Dan Graham with his Wednesday quiz, but we start off today with Laura Perkers from New Model Advisors with the news.
Okay, hello. In the news this morning, big news this morning that I think everyone will be covering from the pensions regulator, which has told pension scheme trustees they have to send warning letters to scheme members to looking to transfer their DB pensions, and they'll be warning them against doing that. Important to note for advisors, the regulator has said it will be monitoring cash equivalent transfer value requests and will be informing the FCA if it sees any unusual patterns. So for example, if they notice the same advisor has been handling multiple transfers at the moment, that will be flagged to the FCA. Second on our agenda this morning, we have a roundtable from our editor Will with guests including Rohan, Jackie Lockie from the CISI, Ian Else from For Financial Planning, and Peter Dean from Lower My Charges. And in the roundtable, they're discussing the duty of advisors to offer debt advice, free guidance, and low-cost services. And a lovely quote from Rohan in the headline, who says, "We have a greater duty than just serving 80 wealthy people in the local area." Third on the agenda today, we have an interview with David Ferguson from Nucleus with James Fitzgerald, and he seems very happy with the company's performance at the moment. Obviously, advisors have had various issues with platforms, everything like wet signatures, but Nucleus seems to be one of the platforms that has stepped up, but do get in touch if you have any of your own views on that. Nucleus has cancelled its dividend, but David is fairly confident about the future of the platform. That's the news this morning, rattled through that.
Thank you very much, Laura. And what have you got coming up today? What are you working on today?
Good question. I'm working on an analysis actually of the March data for a number of DFM model portfolios. So that data is notoriously difficult to get hold of because they all publish sort of to different dates and they all work to different timelines. So it's really difficult to get an accurate look. So I've kind of got the March data 1st to 31st to compare the adventurous, balanced, cautious portfolios, look at where they're allocated, asset allocation and stuff. So that's from me. Not sure there's anything else I can reveal at this time.
That sounds like a complete nightmare job trying to compare that, to doing all of that, because I know
It
how
was.
hard it...
I volunteered and I regret that. That was stupid. But yes, that's the news.
Good, excellent, thank you for that. And now we move on to Chris Budd's financial wellbeing tip of the day. Chris.
Thanks, Andy. Morning, everybody. So yesterday I talked about the importance of really understanding a client's values and beliefs before you give advice, which might contradict what they think they want. So know your client goes more than just what is it you're here for. It goes down to their values and beliefs. So for example, a client who might come and say, I'd like a pension review. That doesn't really mean that they want a pension review. What it might mean is that they're depressed at work, bullied by their boss and desperate to do another job which they love, but they can't afford because it's a lower salary. That's actually why they've come. So that's the sort of stuff that I would suggest we need to be finding out when we do a Know Your Client. So you need to really understand their values, their beliefs and their behaviours. And we've got right now an amazing opportunity to test those behaviours, because one of the questions you ask in a risk questionnaire is what would you do if the stock market goes down by 20%? Well, it has. So what did they say? Neil Bage will tell you that with risk questionnaires that it's really, really hard to predict your future behaviour. So when we ask somebody, what would you do if the stock market goes down by 20%? The only real answer anybody can give is, haven't got a clue. But they did give you an answer. They told you what they would do. So what did they actually do when it went down? So I'd suggest, I've been saying all along that it's a good idea. Now is an opportunity to get your files out, get your notes out, find out what your clients' objectives are, make sure that they are about intrinsic motivations. But you can also, while you're doing that, check their behaviours and see if their behaviours now matches what they thought it was actually going to be.
Very, very good, Chris. Excellent. And obviously, with you still being involved with Ovation and the like, can you give us some examples of how clients have reacted at Ovation? I'm assuming exemplary.
I think some of them have. I know that there's certainly one example of somebody who wanted to sell at the bottom, and I don't know what the end result was, but Tommy would have to tell you that, but we respected their wishes. It wasn't for us to tell them that they were wrong. If technically, I guess you would say that they were wrong, but it was their emotion and you have to respect that. So a conversation was had. I don't know what the end result of it was, but we respected what they did. So, you know, if people are realizing that I'd stay with it or I'd invest more because that's a good thing to do, actually the reality is when it happens, you crap yourself, don't you? You know, we all have, because nobody wants to see your money cut by 25%. So I think it's a good opportunity for discussions with people.
Completely agree with you. Very good. And I think that also goes back to the thing you said right at the start of these radio shows, Chris, was about picking up the phone and talking to people. Yeah, absolutely ideal opportunity to do that.
And not talking to them about their investments, but just say, how are you feeling?
Exactly that. Perfect. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. We will move swiftly on to today's Q&A session, which, as I mentioned before, is about how to create your own podcast. So I'm joined by 3 guests today, and very lucky to do so. So say hello after I shout each one of your names and companies out. First of all, we have Sharon Sutton from Thornton's. Good morning.
Hi there. Hi.
We have Chris Broom from Longhurst. Good morning. And James Mousley from Matthews Comfort. Good morning.
Morning, everyone.
Very good. James has offered in his nice dulcet tones to provide some Barry White at the end of the interview. So look out for that. Right, so let's get straight into the questions then. And Sharon, I'd like to start with yourself actually, because I believe this is a recent launch, isn't it, for you? Tell us about your podcast and what prompted you to launch one.
Right. Well, so you have to blame, if you want to assign blame to anybody, to Adam Owen for this, because it was his idea that I should do it. So I've been working with Adam for a couple of years now as our strategic consultant in the company, and you know, he said, you know, you should do videos or stuff, and I wasn't really comfortable. So we settled on a podcast, and there was really a gap in the market in the Isle of Man, you know, for was-Jenners like us. So, well, I'm talking personally, of course, not Adam. So you know, it was. That was really the main thing to do. But I think what I've realised is the most important thing is you have to build your key relationships before you need them. So that's kind of where the ideas come from. But it's a great community, the Isle of Man, and very much confined by the sea. So, you know, we are where we are at Lockdown Island, and it's having launched, it took about 2 months to get going. I've worked with Martin Bamford. It's been great having it professionally produced. And it launched the first week of lockdown. I mean, who knew? The timing could not have been better. So we've had a pretty good start, really. I think in the first 4 weeks or so, we had about 300 downloads, which is great.
Oh, well done! Congratulations! Wow, really, really new, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, rumor has it they call Chris he is Chris Vava Broom in Silverstone, isn't he? But Chris, tell us about the Inside Silverstone podcast, won't you?
The truth is that I'm just completely winging it. No, I launched it in 2018 when at the same time as launching Longhurst. In Silverstone, so next to the F1 circuit, and it importantly forms part of a wider marketing strategy, and it forms a very useful foundation brick in that, where we're obviously interviewing all the regions, business owners, executives, engineers, technology folk. And the same reason for Sharon and ultimately anybody else that launched this type of business that's focusing on a geographic region. It's about becoming the sort of key person of influence in that area, where you are, for us anyway, certainly trying to help promote their brand, these other people's businesses, trying to connect them to each other through a medium that they currently don't have or don't use themselves. And yesterday I recorded our, I don't know, 65th episode ish. We were nominated for an award in 2018, which we sadly didn't win, but we've just been given an award by Digital Northampton for supporting their community. So yeah, it's gone okay.
Very good, mate. Very good. And just sticking with you for a second there, Chris. So you said you've got to your 65th podcast there. I mean, absolutely amazing work that. How do you go about planning guests and content and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I think, so if you're going to launch a podcast, obviously you need to decide what it is why you're launching it, and the target audience, and what the objective is. And then you can then think about, okay, well, who do we want on that's going to sort of fulfill that objective? And so for me, it was about identifying the key people within our business region who, first of all, would give the show credibility, who themselves would introduce us to other people to come on the show as guests, and who would be hopefully good at promoting it. And so, we identified, the CEO of the technology cluster that we're part of, who came on as guest number one, subsequently became a client, become a friend, has introduced us to shed loads of people. We had the commercial director for the entire business park on, who then cross-promoted it to become a client, to become a friend, and it's sort of just organically grown from there. So as Sharon said earlier, 2-month build-up. Mine was probably a month build-up of pre-recording episodes, and then basically hitting the button, and then literally, hopefully, watch it sort of be successful.
Wow, very good, mate. Very good. And James, good morning to you, sir. Tell us a bit about the Advisor Gap podcast, and also just sort of talk to us about some of the biggest challenges that you've had so far.
Yeah. So if you've not heard of us, myself and Sean Banks run the Advisor Gap podcast. This week's episode, we have Chris Budd. So it's a great episode with Chris. But the Advisor Gap was kind of born out of partly mine and Sean's frustration of the lack of communication skills training and the experience that we went through when we moved from a kind of a technical role into a lead client facing role. And that just didn't seem to be anything. It was just like a no man's land. So rather than anyone else go through that pain that Sean and I went through, we want to try and release something that's evergreen for everyone going through that, and just pick the brains of the best in the business, really. And also experiences from other people. So it's all about just passing it forward. So everyone that's given me any tips in the past, I'm just giving them the respect of doing the same for the next generation. Challenges. My own one is perfection paralysis. So I want everything to be perfect, and it stops me doing things. So I would basically say try and avoid that at all costs. Interestingly, Chris said have a plan. Well, I took that to the extreme, and I have 5 years worth of content written, ready to launch. The errors that I made in the first series were not recording enough in the backlog, which culminated in a kind of a 4-month hiatus of finishing series 1 and then doing the highlights. Also, Sean and I having, I'm almost having a baby. Sean's had his baby, and I've moved jobs. Also, you got to plan these things in life. Yeah. Challenges of a podcast. If you take that hiatus, you lose listenership. So first series, we're getting 600 to 800 downloads an episode. Series 2, partly due to coronavirus, I would say as well, because there wasn't a commute other than our lovely commute that we have in the morning. We're down at maybe 250 for series 2, and we're meant to have built up a listenership. But so that disappears. Yeah, preparation. It's the 7 Ps.
Right.
I'll get it wrong, but it's kind of prior preparation prevents piss poor performance.
That's the one.
And I just relate it to sport. So historically, I was, well, an okay sportsman.
And James, obviously, we can see the big boom mic in front of you there.
Yeah.
Talk to us about some of the kit that you need to set up a podcast. So tell us about the bits of software you need, how you actually do it, how to get good recording quality, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Interesting question. You can have as little or as much as you want. So you can be like Andy Hart and spend an arm and a leg on a kit, have it look pretty on screen, or you can just have a simple, the old school Apple iPhones headset, the wired one. They've actually got some of the best mic equipment in that little rectangular space for anyone recording, so you can use that. We went for the podcast mics, which you can get on Amazon for about 100 quid these days. The software in the background, we actually record most of ours on Zoom. And in Zoom, you can split out the recording into individuals. So with ours, it's a bit more difficult because we have Sean and I interviewing a guest or guests. But if you can split out the recording, it means that the editor, we use an editor, that when there's lags in internet or there's stuff that needs to be cut out or cleaned up, you can be more specific. So Zoom's really good. We also use Audacity. So Audacity is a free piece of software that you can download, and that's good for in person. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much. And I outsource all the uploading. You need a platform to upload your podcast to iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and so you need a platform that facilitates that. I use a platform called Libsyn. It starts at $5 a month, and it resets every month the amount you can upload, and you can spend more than that. I don't know what the other guys and girls use for theirs.
Nice. Okay. Sharon, you sort of mentioned before that you have a third party that does your editing and post-production, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Tell us a bit more about how that works and how that relationship works.
Sure. So I use Martin Bamford Media. I met him at the conference in Birmingham last year when we were all allowed to meet. And so he suggested, he has actually on his site a whole list of the kit that you need. So I just bought that. And so it's a Zoom recorder. It's really good for face-to-face, but I haven't been able to use it obviously since, and I can't figure out, because I'm not very techy, how to connect the headset and mic to my computer. I'm very sad to say. So these are my son's, his gaming headset, and I think you should just borrow, beg or steal at the moment and use what you can. So that's what I've done. So
okay.
Yeah, so using an editor is fantastic. The guy who does my editing, his name's James. He's really good. I can send him a whole, file of stuff, and what it comes back with, it doesn't sound, to me, it sounds like, oh, who's that person? And it sounds really professional. And I've been really proud of some of the episodes we've put out, which is saying something.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. Okay, super. And how about the setup there, Chris? So, obviously, James mentioned Lisbon before. Sharon outsources some of the editing and post-production, that kind of thing. What's your process there?
A bit of all of that. So the audio editing is done by a guy called James Eade, which I think most of us use. James is nodding his head there. I was introduced to him by somebody else. He's really, really good, and sort of cheap as chips, which is great. The artwork's produced by our marketing team. I started off with a lapel mic plugged into my iPhone, doing one-to-one interviews with people, and the sound quality on that was great. I've also got a Yeti mic like James has got in front of him now, for occasions where I do sort of solo stuff. I also then subsequently, a sort of year later, bought a Zoom H6, I think it is, for when I do sort of group sort of recordings, because we've been doing sort of mastermind sessions with a room full of sort of experts. And since COVID, I've been doing everything through Zoom. So, it can be inexpensive. It doesn't have to be an expensive exercise. As James mentioned, you can sort of go all out and buy loads and loads of kit and then realise you've made mistakes or whatever, or just start off with a basic lapel mic plugged into your phone and just make sure you've got the right people around you helping you to edit it. As I said, James Eads is really good for audio. You know, I can introduce the person that does our artwork. And I was chatting to a financial planner yesterday, very, very impressive financial planner who's going to be replicating the Inside brand in his geographic region. And I'm going to be emailing him a list of basically everything that we do, the process that we've created, and who does what when, what technology we use, and how we go about it, what the interview brief looks like. And so if anybody wants a copy of that, then just email me at chris@longhurst.co.uk, and I'll also forward that on to you as well.
Super, Chris. And one thing I'm sat here thinking, and I'm sure many others are, is answering that "so what" question. So what has this done for your business? You know, what has launching a podcast done for your business? Can you link it back to X amount of revenue or success?
So I joined a technology community that viewed and views still professional advice as a necessary evil. Half a dozen accountancy firms, half a dozen law firms, but no financial firms, no St James's Place people there trying to shove inheritance tax seminars down their throats. And so for me, it was about passively but strategically promoting Longhurst for what we are, and in time, hopefully gaining some clients from it. You know, we gained a client within a month. We work with, I think, at least 10 to 12 people that have been on the podcast. I said we've got awards for it. We run a Christmas tipple drink where I basically invite everybody that's been part of the podcast to a free piss up, which they love. I've had freebies, tickets to Silverstone, and most importantly, and this is the most important bit, I've really, really enjoyed doing it. It's been really fun. It's hard work. Don't get me wrong. There are times where I don't want to have to interview somebody. Yeah, I don't want to have to be smiling and chatty, but you just get on with it. But in the main, it's been really, really fun, and it's formed, as I said earlier, part of a much broader marketing strategy to help promote my business, which we only launched 20 months ago. Yeah, delighted that we've done it.
Good, excellent, mate, excellent. And Sharon, if I could just come back to you quickly, if there was anyone in the world that you'd like to get onto your podcast to interview, who would that person be?
Oh, good question. Mark Cavendish. He's probably the biggest island influencer we have.
Nice.
Yeah, it's teammate of Chris Frooms, or he was at one point.
Awesome. Right. So that's your 6-month goal there, Sharon. Come on the pod.
Yeah.
How about for yourself, James?
Well, as I'm obsessed with Michael Jordan's The Last Dance at the moment, it's going to be MJ all day. I mean, it's a pipe dream and very unlikely, but just being a selfish git, basically.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. And how about yourself, Chris? I reckon I can guess.
Well, it's Silverstone, so it's got to be Murray Walker, right?
Okay.
I was chatting about him yesterday. We interviewed Louise Goodman, who's a sort of award-winning TV presenter, first female F1 presenter, and we speak about Murray Walker, and yeah, would absolutely love to have him on, gas bagging about his career.
Awesome. And as we ask all of our guests as well, so starting with yourself, Sharon, what's the thing that you're most looking forward to at the end of this lockdown period?
I guess it's seeing my sister and her family, because they all live in Colorado. We were supposed to be there at Easter and supposed to go again in the summer. Doesn't look like we're going to get there then. So yeah, it'd be good to catch up with her other than virtually.
Oh, awesome. Brilliant. And how about yourself, James?
Welcoming my first child. Hopefully we'll be out of lockdown by then, by July.
Fingers crossed, mate. Somebody did put in the chat earlier on, do you sleep? Now, I hasten
Not going to.
Definitely not.
At the moment, I do.
And Chris, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think the same as Sharon said. So human contact, right? Seeing family, friends, and having a beer with you lot at some point this year. Definitely, good man. Well, look, thank you all for that. It's some really, really useful insights there. I think we all pretty much use the same person for podcast editing, which is quite interesting. So if anybody does want to launch one, use James. He's super. Yeah. But there's some brilliant insights there. And for anybody who's thinking of launching a podcast, obviously we've done it at Next Gen as well. It does work brilliantly. And as I think Chris rightly said, it's an awful lot of fun. Getting to know some people and the ins and outs of how things work. So highly recommended. Thank you all. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Good luck with it.
Good man. Right, so we now have our competition of the day, and our competition today is going to be hosted by Mr. Dan Graham. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, sir. So I tried to find the picture of me that looked most like a quiz master or something like that. The only one I could find was me looking like Anne Robinson. So, Rohan, me and you have got to get know each other very well over the last 2.5 years. So I thought I'd put together a little music quiz, and you could answer some of the questions. So I hope you've been sharpened up on your knowledge. This is a tough one. What year was this released?
I don't know. Anyone in the chat?
Yeah, I was thinking that someone in the chat must know. Oh God, I've got loads coming through.
Oh, there's some 76 and 77s. That's
yeah.
76, 78.
So,
I'm going to go with a consensus here. Right? No, wait a minute. Right. So I'm going to go with Natalie Wright's answer because she's got family that are in big bands. So I'm going to go with 76.
a second. It's actually 1977. Oh, very close. I think someone got it right in there. Who was it who got it right? Jessica Gear got it right.
Tommy Bell, Jessica Gear. Nice one.
Okay, very well done, guys. I don't think you'll know this one either,
I don't mind Simply Red, but I don't know. I don't know the album. No. We've got a few guesses of stars coming through.
Yeah. People helping you out here. Yeah, it was Simply Red Stars. I don't know if anyone can tell me what year that was from. We'll move on with the quiz, but if anyone can tell me what year that was from, that'd be very impressive.
That is Coldplay Parachutes, isn't it?
Yeah, well done, sir. That's quite an easy one, that one. Move on next. This is your favourite album.
It is, yeah. Kanye West College Dropout.
Yeah, so, but what year was this from? What year was this released?
I don't know. Let me think. 2004?
We've still got some guesses coming through. It's 2004. Yeah, good shout.
Yeah, well, it was. First year of university. That's right. That is. Oh, all right. Our silent alarm was. That'd have been 2005.
Let's have a look. It was 2005. Well done. Well done.
Cool. This is all right. This.
Can you tell me who that is?
Lil Nas.
Lil Nas. You're missing a vital letter here.
I don't know. I only said it because I saw it in the chat. I'm assuming that James is about to rip open his shirt and do the same thing shortly. So.
It is Lil Nas X. Yeah, well done.
No idea.
And the final one, what song is this from?
1975, and the song is "Give Yourself a Try," isn't it?
Try, yeah. Good shout. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Good.
Okay, mate. There we go. That's that part of the show done. I'll hand back over to you guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much, Dan. God, that made me feel old. Anyway, thanks very much. And on tomorrow's show, we've got an interview with Jackie Lockie, the head of financial planning at the CISI, and Will Robbins is back talking rhubarb in his gardening section. Thanks all for coming along today. Have a great day and stay safe.